Okay, in previous class we discussed about different types of organizations by considering who is going to get benefit. Okay, so there are different types of organizations. Some are the owner, some organizations will benefit its members, some organization will benefit its clients, and some organization will benefit all. That means government organizations. Okay, that we discussed in the previous class. In this class, we are going to discuss about process of organizing. Okay, the meaning of organizing is it is to design the organization structure. That means what are the levels in an organization? Okay, how many levels? Whether it is 3-level organization, 4-level, 5-level. Then what are all the activities performed at various levels? Okay, what are the responsibilities and what are the authority given to people at various levels? So that is defined by the organization structure. Organizing means designing the organization structure. In performing the organizing function, the manager differentiates and integrates the activities of his organization. So that means it includes departmentalization. If you consider any educational institution like an engineering college, you can find different departments. It may be based on subject domain, okay, like mechanical, civil, and it may be based on the functions like examination department, uh, administration department. Okay, so like that, there are various departments. Even if you consider any manufacturing company, what are the departments you can find in any manufacturing company? Okay, if you consider a car manufacturing company, what are the departments you can see or you can find in the company? ಯಾವ ಡಿಪಾರ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ?
Sir, design department.
Design department. Then
Material science.
Material purchase department. Okay, so it may be it may procure raw materials. Then
manufacturing department.
Marketing.
illa 1 ಗಂಟೆ. Marketing department. Okay, the role of marketing department is to do sales forecasting. That means what is the expected demand for a particular duration. Okay, so for this quarter or for this year, okay, what is the demand? That will be done by marketing department. One is sales forecast, that is before starting manufacturing. Then after manufacturing products also, it has to think how it can distribute the product, how it can effectively sell the product. That is the function of marketing department. Marketing, design, then manufacturing or production department. Okay, other than that, in almost all manufacturing companies, you can find one more department, which is that
Quality control.
quality control. Okay, quality control, sometimes we consider quality control as part of production department. Okay, there's another department, that is human resource department. Okay, our personnel department. What is the function of human resource department, HR department in any company?
Recruitment, sir.
Recruitment. That means deciding who should be hired to do a particular job and what should be the workforce in an organization. Okay, how many people can do the work need to be done to get the required outcome. Okay, that is decided by HR department. Okay, they will hire suitable, efficient people. Okay, who can work effectively to achieve the objectives of an organization. That means typically in any manufacturing company, you can find 4 departments. One is production department, another will be marketing department, then HR department, that is the personnel. Okay. That you can also find design department. Sometimes design also part of production department only. Okay, like that, based on the types of work need to be performed, every organization will have different departments. Okay, so this organizing also includes differentiating the various tasks need to be performed, grouping the tasks and then integrating. Okay, so if you consider any organization, even though there are different departments, there must be coordination among various departments, otherwise it will result in various complications. Okay, there must be coordination. In order to achieve coordination, integration of all the activities is required. Okay, so that is the integrate the activities of this organization. Next, organizing consists of a 7-step procedure. First step is, okay, so defining the objectives of the organization is the first step. Consideration of objectives. The first step in organizing is to know the objectives of the enterprise. Okay, what is it doing? Okay, whether it is manufacturing cars, whether it is manufacturing two-wheelers, or it is providing service like developing a software for a particular application, or whether it is providing knowledge by training or by conducting some courses. Like that, every organization is having its own objective. Okay, that should be defined. Objectives determine the various activities which need to be performed. Next is deciding organizational boundaries. Okay, it includes making manufacture versus buy choices for different goods and services, and choices about strategic alliances with other firms. Okay, so if you consider any manufacturing company, like a company which is going to manufacture two-wheeler or cars. Okay, so like if you consider Bajaj company, okay, which is manufacturing two-wheelers, then in any two-wheeler, okay, so any bike, so there are hundreds of components. Next, the question is how many components should be manufactured in the Bajaj company itself, and how many components should be purchased or procured from other suppliers. Okay, like that, every company has to make a decision regarding how many parts or how many components need to be manufactured in-house, that is inside the company, and how many components should be procured from others. Okay, in order to make this decision, what are the considerations? Based on which criteria you are going to make a decision regarding whether to buy a particular component or whether to procure from other suppliers. What are the considerations?
Raw materials.
Raw material. Okay, availability of raw material. Okay. Next, any other answers? ಸೊ ಯಾವ್ದನ್ನ ಪರ್ಚೇಸ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಬೇರೆಯವರಿಂದ, ಯಾವ್ದನ್ನ ಕಂಪ್ನಿನ ಮ್ಯಾನುಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಚರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು, ಯಾವ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ಹೇಗೆ ಡಿಸೈಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ? Okay, there are some standard components like fasteners, nuts, bolts, washers. Okay, do you think the Bajaj company will manufacture these components like nuts, bolts, washers required for bike, or it will go for procuring from others? Really.
Sir, usually they will purchase from some other manufacturing industries, sir.
Why they prefer to purchase from others? What are the reasons?
Because there will be 100 together and 100 number of components will be there, sir. It is difficult for them to manufacture each and every component every time, sir.
Okay, so that will result in other problems. Okay, if there are 100 components, if you decide to manufacture all 100 components inside the company, then it is difficult to arrange for resources, and it is difficult to have that much technology, that much number of machines, that much labor. Okay, it is difficult to handle. And even next you have to consider another aspect, cost. Okay, suppose if your supplier is supplying some of the components at least cost, okay, then you have to go for it. Suppose if you want to manufacture the same components, since when you go for mass production, obviously the cost of the components will get reduced. Okay, suppose if you want some components in limited numbers, it is not feasible, or it is not a right choice to manufacture them. Instead, you can procure. Okay, considering the cost of the products, then quantity, required quantity. Okay, and again life cycle of the product. So based on that, companies are going to make a decision, okay, which are the components need to be manufactured inside the company and which are the components procured from suppliers. Okay, that is the deciding organizational boundaries. That is manufacturer versus buy choices. Next, other than that, companies also will have strategic alliances with other firms. Okay, recently, yes, I think if you read newspaper, you know, Reliance and now strategic alliances with Facebook. Okay, because of that, they will get some benefits. That is a strategy of company. Okay, they will collaborate. Okay, to gain market, to expand the market, they will collaborate. Okay, that is also part of deciding organizational boundary with whom we have to collaborate. That is also another important decision need to be made. Also, choices have to be made about the extent to which the different parts of the organization interact directly with the outside environment. So again, if it is a manufacturing company, who has to interact with consumers? Okay, that is the another important decision need to be made. Okay, so whether marketing people will interact with consumers, whether people involved in production jobs, they must be allowed to interact with consumers. Okay, that is this second thing. Usually, marketing people or marketing department will interact with consumers. Okay, production department people, they don't involve with interaction with outside world. Okay, so that is also another decision need to be made. Next, grouping of activities into departments. All closely related and similar activities are grouped into departments and sections. Suppose if you consider manufacturing company, okay, production activities, that is conversion, value addition to the raw material. Okay, that those kind of activities will be grouped into production department. Then procuring raw materials. Okay, and again sales and purchase. Okay, so that will be looked into by marketing department. Again, recruitment of staff for the company will be decided by HR department. Like that, activities will be grouped into departments. Okay, activities of a manufacturing company may be grouped into production, marketing, financing, and personnel department. Financing means it is about making arranging for money. Okay, it may be required to buy new machines. Okay, or expand the business organization. It may be to start new plants at various locations, or it may be to improve infrastructure. Okay, so that is the financing. Financing is about arranging for money required for the business. Next, deciding which departments will be key departments. Okay, if you consider a manufacturing company, as we discussed, there are 4 departments. Okay, production, marketing, personnel or HR department, and finance department. Okay, you cannot say all are key departments. That is a generalized statement. That is correct also, but you have to identify for a manufacturing company which is the key department. If you consider 4, that is production, marketing, finance, and HR department, which is the key department for a manufacturing company. Which is more important?
According to me, HR, sir.
So HR department. Okay, but according to management experts, for a manufacturing company, production department is the key department, and HR department is having least significance comparatively. Okay, every department is having its own significance. That is a different argument, but comparatively, okay, so for a manufacturing company, production department is the key department. Okay. Departments are those which are rendering key activities, that is activities essential for the fulfillment of goals. The key department should be placed directly under higher management. Determining levels at which various types of decisions are to be made. Again, which level of management has to take a particular decision. Okay, that is the determining levels at which various types of decisions are to be made. What types of decisions should be made by top management? What decisions should be made by middle, and what decisions should be taken by first line or low level management? Okay, that is the next step. Each firm must decide how much decentralization of authority and responsibility it wants to have. That means top managers, okay, how they will delegate the authority and responsibility. That means how they give away the decision making authority. Okay, so that is this one. Okay, if you consider India as an organization, we have central government and we have state governments. Okay, so state governments also have some decision making authority. Okay, that is the decentralization. And some of the decision making authority is retained with central government, and some of the decision making authority are delegated to state government. Okay, which are the decisions or the decision making authorities retained with central government, which state governments cannot interfere. Okay, in India. Okay,
Military
which are
issues.
really.
Military.
Okay, if you consider defense, that is military. Okay, it comes under central government or state government.
Even railways.
Railway.
It is okay. It is under central government. Okay, if you consider foreign affairs, that is diplomacy.
Central.
Center. Okay. Education. Education. Okay. There are some areas. Okay, where central government cannot take decision on its own. Okay, it has to consult all state governments, like education, for example. Okay, it comes under both central and state government. Okay, it has to consult the state governments before taking any decision. Okay, and similarly, if you consider the agriculture sector, okay, when they want to implement farm bills, again they should take consultation of state governments. Even state assemblies should approve those bills or those laws. Okay, then only it can be implemented. So, similarly in all companies or all organizations also same thing. Some decision making authority will be retained with top management, and some decision making authority will be delegated to lower level managements. Okay, so that is determining levels at which various types of decisions are to be made. Extreme decentralization may lead to loss of control and effective coordination. That means if the top management all powers to subordinates or to lower level of management, it may result in lack of control and coordination. Okay, that is the problem with excessive decentralization. Next, there is another problem with extreme centralization. Extreme centralization may lead to wrong decisions at wrong and incomplete breakdown of the morale of the employees. Okay, so this is a problem. And now, if you look at the GST, okay, that may be creating a new problem related to extreme centralization. Now, most of the tax will be collected by central government, and central government has to, once it collected tax, it has to give away the tax to state governments. Now, because of the economic crisis, central government is not ready to give the share of the state governments. again that will result in the conflict. Okay, that is an example of the problem with extreme centralization. Next, determining the span of management. Okay, span of management is related to how many subordinates a manager can effectively manage. Okay, if you consider a classroom, okay, a class having 50 students and class having 80 students, okay, for a faculty which is easy to manage. Okay, a class having strength 50 and 80, which is easy to manage.
50.
50. Okay, similarly, in any organization also, same thing is applicable. Okay, if the number of people a manager has to manage is less, then you can effectively manage. Okay, that is one way of looking at span of management. But there is another problem. If you go on reducing the number of people one manager has to manage, then you need more number of managers. Then you have to pay them salary. Okay, then you have to, then the cost for the organization also will increase. Okay, you have to maintain a balance so that managers can effectively manage. At the same time, the cost also will be less. That is a problem with, or that is a challenge with determining the span of management. It is about how many people a manager has to manage, how many subordinates a manager has to manage, deciding that is span of management. Okay, to determine the number of subordinates who should report directly to each executive. Next, setting up a coordination mechanism. Again, since organization include various departments, there must be communication and there must be interaction among various departments. Okay, so in order to achieve that, there must be a coordination mechanism. It may be with the help of some softwares. You can have real-time data. Okay. A direct consequence of departmentalization is the need to coordinate the independent activities of the members of the organizations. As individuals and departments carry out their specialized activities, the overall goals of the organization may become submerged or conflicts among organization members may develop. Okay, it will happen. Sometimes there will be clash between various departments. If that happen, okay, then that will affect the overall performance of the organization. That should be avoided. Okay, in order to avoid that, there must be proper procedures, proper mechanisms. That is also part of organizing function. Okay, so these are the 7 steps involved in organization process. Okay, next, principles of organizing. So already we discussed principles of management. Okay, so can you recall or can you remember or can you say the principles of management? How many principles?
14.
14. Okay. Already we discussed about Henry Fayol's 14 principles of management. Okay. These principles of organizing, most of the principles are same as principles of management. Okay. Again, it is a repetition of the principles of management. Since principles of organizing is nothing but it is related to principles of management only. Okay. So then also we will discuss once again. Objectives, that means first you have to define the objective. That is one principle. The objectives of the enterprise influence the organization structure, and hence the objectives of the enterprise should first be clearly defined. This is one of the principles. That means without defining objective of an enterprise, you cannot do anything. That's why in most of the topics we start discussion with objectives. The reason is, first, if you don't know what are the objectives of an organization, there will be a lot of confusion. Okay, that's why it is very important to define objectives. Next, specialization. The activities of the enterprise should be grouped according to functions and assigned to persons according to their specialization. Again, if you consider a manufacturing company, production department. So who will be hired, who will be recruited to work in production department? ಯಾರಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಡಿಪಾರ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ವರ್ಕ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ? Okay, mechanical engineers. Okay. Next, who will be hired to work in finance department?
MBA.
MBA. Marketing?
MBA.
Okay, usually marketing, MBA. Okay, so finance, BCom, MCom, okay, CA. So they will be recruited to work in finance department. Then HR. So HR also usually MBA. Okay. So again, based on the specialization, that's why based on specialization, people will be recruited. That is another principle. You cannot recruit one who is having technical knowledge to work in HR department. Okay, one who is having technical knowledge is capable of managing machines rather than managing people. Okay, one who is having knowledge in the field of human resource, he is capable of managing people rather than machines. Okay, so that's why it is all about specialization. Next, span of control. Okay, how many subordinates can be effectively managed? As there is a limit to the number of persons that can be managed effectively by one boss, the span of control should be as far as the minimum. As we discussed, okay, it is easy to manage a class having 50 that compared to a class having 80 students. Similarly, it is easy to manage 5 subordinates than 10 subordinates. Okay, that is the span of control. Next, management by exception. So this is very important principle. One who is at the top management, he should not involve in all decision making process. Okay, if we start involving every decision making process, then the role of top management will become very complicated. Okay, that's why they have to make use of this principle of exception, where top level managers involve in decision making of very crucial or very complicated tasks, or they will interfere only when there are problems, when there are complicated problems. Okay, so that is the management by exception. So they will make decisions, only crucial decisions they are going to make. Okay, you can consider the example. Suppose if you have any problem related to attending a class, okay, or if you have shortage of attendance, whom do you contact first? Do you go to principal, or do you contact your faculty?
Faculty.
Okay. Suppose instead of, if you go to principal, what principal is going to suggest you? Sir, ನನಗೆ attendance shortage ಇದೆ ಅಂತ principal ಹತ್ರ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅವರು? So what principal is going to do is, principal also tell you, okay, so don't come to me, okay, go and meet your faculty. So that means even principal also is going to make use of this management by exception. Okay, that means these are the routine tasks that can be handled by faculty. When faculty can handle this type of issues, okay, it is not necessary for a principal to interfere in this type of decision making process. Similarly, in a company also, top management should not involve in every decision making process. Okay, so then it is very difficult. Most of the time, top level management may have to spend a lot of time in routine decision making, which can be done by first level managers. Okay, so crucial decisions or very important decisions only should be made by top level management. As the executives at the higher levels have limited time, only exceptionally complex problems should be referred to them, and routine matters should be dealt with by subordinates at lower levels. This will enable the executives at higher levels to devote time to more important and crucial issues. Okay, and this is applicable for even for policymakers, even for politicians. Okay, we say some leaders will work for 18 hours, 24 hours, they are hardworking. That doesn't make sense. Okay, they have to decide. We have to look into which aspects of management. Okay, they should not involve in all stupid things. Okay, so even if they work for 18 hours, that doesn't result in effective management. Okay, so suppose if a policymaker, if he is working hard for 18 hours, then why the economy is in bad state? Okay, that shows the difference between involving in every decision making process and effective management. Both are different. Okay, so every manager should adopt these principles of management by exception. So ಎಲ್ಲದರಲ್ಲೂ ಮೂಗ್ ತುರ್ಸೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗಬಾರ್ದು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರಲ್ಲ, ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದಿ ಪ್ರಿನ್ಸಿಪಲ್ ಆಫ್ ಎಕ್ಸೆಪ್ಷನ್. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಎಲ್ಲದರಲ್ಲೂ ಕೈ ಆಡ್ಸಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬಾರ್ದು, ಎಲ್ಲದರಲ್ಲೂ ಮೂಗ್ ತುರ್ಸಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬಾರ್ದು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಲ್ಲ, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದಿ ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಬೈ exception. This is very important principle. Next, scalar principle or chain of command. Okay, this is who has to manage whom, or if you are a subordinate, you should know who is your boss. Okay, ನಾನು ಯಾರಿಗೆ ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದು ನನಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿರಬೇಕು. That is defined by the scalar principle. Okay, that is chain of command. The line of authority from the chief executive at the top to the first line supervisor at the bottom must be clearly defined. That means who is the boss and who are his subordinates. Okay, so subordinates are answerable to whom. That is defined by the chain of command or the scalar principle. So now as students, you know, you are answerable to faculty if you have shortage of attendance, or if you have less marks, or if you have any issues, you are answerable to faculty, and faculty are answerable to head of the department, and head of the departments are answerable to principal, and principal is answerable to management of the college. Okay, similarly in any manufacturing company also same thing. Okay, people working at shop floor, they are answerable to departmental heads. Okay, and again departmental heads, production department head is answerable to the top level management or the company. Okay, that is the scalar principle. Next, unity of command. Okay, each subordinate should have only one superior whose command he has to obey. That is, who is the boss and whose order he has to obey. That is the unity of command. Okay, next, delegation. So this also we discussed in principles of management. So authority should be delegated, power should be given to subordinates. Okay, the authority delegated should be equal to responsibility. Suppose simply if you get responsibility and if you don't have any powers, how you can effectively manage the responsibility? It is not possible. Okay, if some responsibilities is assigned to a subordinate, along with responsibility, powers, that is authority, should be delegated. Authority is nothing but power. Okay, suppose if you want to take action on the people who are working under you, so you should have power to take action. If you don't have power, how you can manage your subordinates? That is the problem. That power will be given by this authority, and this authority should be delegated to you by the top level management. That is delegation of authority. So simply if top management give you responsibility without any powers, so you cannot do anything. That's why with responsibility you should also get power. Okay, if you are a manager, you should, along with responsibility, you should give some power to your subordinate. Okay, each manager should have enough authority to accomplish the task assigned to him. Otherwise it is difficult to get work done by workers. Okay, next, responsibility. The superior should be held responsible for the acts of his subordinates. Okay, this is very important. Okay, since you have responsibility, you have power, you have authority, you cannot always blame on others. Okay, I am ready to work, I am okay, honest, I work hard for 24 hours, I am not corrupt. People may say like this, our leaders may say like this, but when they have power, how they are using that power to make effective decisions, okay, and what is its impact, and how it is reflected in terms of data, in terms of facts, that should be looked into. Okay, ನಾನೇನೋ ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಉದ್ದೇಶದಿಂದ ಏನೋ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಕ್ ಹೋದೆ, ಅದು ನನ್ನ ಕೈಲಿ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, so he is not a good manager, he is not a good leader. Okay, that should be understood. That is the responsibility. When someone is having responsibility and authority, it is his job to get work done. Otherwise, management or company will consider him as he is ineffective, is not capable to be in the manager post. Okay, next, authority. The authority is the tool by which a manager is able to accomplish the desired objective. So that means if he has power, it is easy for him to achieve the objective. Next, efficiency. The organization structure should enable the enterprise to function efficiently and accomplish its objectives with the lowest possible cost. Since every organization, since if you consider any manufacturing company, there is global competition. Okay, it is a globalized world, and competition is also, it is global competition. That means a product manufactured in India has to compete with a product manufactured in China in the global market. Okay, if China is able to produce some products at very least cost, and if the performance of the product is same as Indian product, then obviously people will go for Chinese product. That's why you must be able to produce quality products at very less cost as possible. Okay, then only you are able to compete in the global market. That is the efficiency. Next, simplicity. The organization structure should be as simple as possible, and the organization levels should as far as possible be minimum. Okay, so this is the principle of simplicity. It should be simple. That means the levels in an organization should be less. Okay, instead of 5 levels, if there are 3 levels in an organization, that is the simple structure. Next, flexibility. The organization should be adaptable to changing circumstances. Okay, circumstances may be because of change in economic conditions, because of change in technology, because of change in political situation in the country or in the world. Okay, now you know the entire world is looking at the result of USA. Okay, even in India also we are worried about the results of USA. Why we are much worried about who is going to win in USA? How does that affect us?
Sir, international relationships also matters Indian economy, sir.
Okay, so now we know we are living in a globalized world. Okay, so who is going to get elected in USA? That is also having an impact on India. Okay, that is also having an impact on business relations. Okay, so and even diplomatic relations and many other things. Okay, so that's why we are living in a globalized world. That's why we are worried about who is going to win in USA. Okay. Next, balance. That means if you look into span of management, it should not be wide. At the same time, it should not be narrow. Okay, if you look into delegation of authority and responsibility, too much decentralization results in various problems in an organization. Too much centralization also will have some negative impact on the organization. That means ಯಾವುದು ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಆಗಬಾರ್ದು, ಯಾವುದು ಕಡಿಮೆ ಆಗಬಾರ್ದು. You have to maintain a balance. Okay, since every extreme is having its own merits and demerits, it is important to maintain balance. Okay, so that is the principle of balance. There should be a reasonable balance in the size of various departments and there should be balance between centralization and decentralization, between the principle of span of control and the chain of command. Then there should be balance between human resource and technological. That means there should be balance between 3 M's, that is manpower, machines or technology, money. Okay, so this is the principle of balance. There must be balance between 3 M's. There must be balance between a span of management. There must be balance between delegation of authority. Okay, next, unity of direction. There should be one objective and one plan for a group of activities having the same objective. So this already we discussed in principles of management also. Okay, so different departments should focus towards achieving the objective. Personal ability. As people constitute an organization, there is need for proper selection, placement and training of staff. Acceptable. The structure of the organization should be acceptable to the people who constitute it. Okay. So if you look at the structure of the organization, if you consider India as an organization, okay, our structure is defined by constitution. Okay, and we should respect our constitution. So similarly, so organization structure also must be accepted by the stakeholders of the company. That is the principle of acceptability. So if people of that organization doesn't accept the structure, then that will result in various complications. Okay, the system may collapse because of that. Next, span of management. Okay, I will take 1 minute break and then I will continue. Okay, I think you know when you have CIE. CIE ಯಾವತ್ತಿರೋದು? When do you have CIE of this course? Okay, you have CIE on Thursday. Okay, for CIE syllabus is module 2. Okay, I will continue. Next, span of management or span of control. It indicates the number of subordinates who report directly to a manager. Determination of an appropriate span of management is important. Span of management affects the efficient utilization of managers and the effective performance of their subordinates. Too wide a span may mean that managers are overstraining themselves and that their subordinates are receiving too little guidance or control. Okay, as we discussed, if there are 80 students in a class, it is difficult to manage for a faculty. That means that is the span of management or span of control is too wide, and the manager, that is the faculty, is finding it difficult to manage 80 students. Instead of 80, if there are 50 students in a class, for a faculty it is easy to manage. Okay, similarly, if the span of control is small, it is easy for a manager to perform his duty efficiently. Okay, and there is another problem. If the span of management is very less, that means instead of managing 80 students, if there are only 20 students in a class, okay, for a faculty it is easy to manage, but the problem is for 80 students there must be 4 sections, then 4 classrooms may be required. Similarly, in an organization also more resources are required if the span of management is very narrow, okay, then more resources are required. That will result in increase in cost of production or cost of managing an organization. Okay, there is a relationship between span of management and organization structure. A narrow span of management results in a tall organization with many levels of supervision between top management and the lowest organizational levels. This creates more communication and cost problems. Okay, you can understand that in a better way with the help of this. Okay. So here consider the sales department in a company. Okay, one sales manager is managing 16 salesmen. Okay, this is one structure. In another structure, okay, so there is one sales manager and there are 4 assistant sales managers, and these assistant sales managers are managing 4 salesmen. Okay, in which case effective management is possible. If you consider this as 1, this is second, in which case effective management is possible.
Second, sir.
Second. Okay, that means if the span of management is less, management will be effective. Then what is the problem or what are the challenges with going for second option? We know management will be effective, but what are the problems with second option?
Expense.
Expense. Okay, look at the number of managers required to manage 16 salesmen. Okay, here also number of salesmen are 16. Here also number of salesmen are 16. 4, 8, 12, 16. Okay, in order to manage 16 salesmen in this structure, only one person is sufficient, only one manager is sufficient. Whereas in this case, 5 managers are managing 16 salesmen. That means you have to give salary for 5 managers instead of 1. Okay, but the problem is you have to decide what is the correct appropriate span of management. Okay, that is a very crucial decision making task. Okay, here you can look. So even if the span of management is narrow, then it will result in increase in levels. Here you can see only one level of management. Then all salesmen are nothing but they are workers. Okay, here there are 2 levels. Sales manager, that is the top. This is the top management level. Then assistant sales managers. These are the first line management. Okay, so these are the middle level managers. These are the first line managers. So salesmen are the people who are working on ground. Okay. Next, we have to make decision regarding what should be the span of management. That means if there is a manager, okay, how many subordinates he can manage effectively. Okay, what are the criteria to make a decision regarding how many subordinates can be managed by a manager. Okay, for that there are some guidelines. Okay, or you can consider this as factors. Okay, factors governing the span of management. First one is ability of the manager. Okay, you know, as individuals, every individual is different. Every human being is unique. Similarly, the managing capability of every individual is different. Next, the question is, so how do you consider this ability? Okay, whom do you consider as reference to decide on span of management? Okay, that is the question for which you have to find answer. Okay, so in an organization, the span of management should be based on a manager of average ability. Okay, you should not consider a manager who is performing more than average, more than the standard capability. So if you fix span of management based on a manager who is performing very well, then the problem is that may result in ineffective management, because in an organization, there may be 50 managers. Okay, out of 50, 2 to 4 managers may be performing very well. And if you fix the span of management considering only those 2 to 4, remaining 46 find it difficult to manage their subordinates effectively. Okay, similarly, if there may be few who are underperforming, okay, so again the number may be 2 to 4. Again, if you fix the span of management by considering these 4 managers who are underperforming, then the problem is you need more number of managers. That means you have to invest, you have to pay salary for 50, okay, or instead of 50 you may need 250 managers to manage subordinates. Okay, these are the consequences. So that's why span of management will be decided by considering the average ability of the manager. Okay, if there are 50 managers, you are considering the average ability. Okay, so on an average or standard. Okay, next, ability of the employees. Okay, so if the employees are qualified, if the employees have interest to do their work, then it is easy for managers to manage them. Okay, if the employees don't have interest in work, if they don't have enough capability, if they don't have enough skills to perform a particular task, then for a manager it is difficult to manage. Okay, similarly you can consider this similar example. Okay, if there are 62 students in a class, okay, if students are not having interest towards studies, then it is difficult for a faculty to manage them. Okay, suppose if all 60 students are interested in studies, then even though if faculty don't complete syllabus, if we don't teach also, the students may get passed, students may get score in the exam because of the quality of the students. Okay, if quality of the students is good, even though faculty is not good, then only there is a possibility that students can score good marks, students can learn on their own. Okay, but if the students are not showing interest, not having interest in studies, then it is difficult for the faculty to, okay, make them read, okay, make them score, make them pass. Okay, so this is the another consideration. Okay, if the employees are competent and possesses the necessary skill and motivation to perform the task assigned, less attention from the manager is required and a larger span of management can be used. Okay, next, type of work. Okay, if employees are doing similar jobs, the span of management can be larger. If their jobs are quite different, a small span may be necessary. Okay, this is another thing. You have observed, okay, what is the strength in lab and what is the strength in class? Okay, suppose if you consider your section M3, okay, so there are 50 students. If you go for any lab, okay, how many students in a batch?
12 to 15.
12 to 15. Okay, why? The number is 15 in lab and the number is 50 to 60 in class. What is the difference? Again, it is based on this factor, that is type of work. There's a difference between what you are going to learn in class and what you are going to learn in lab. Okay, in lab, even though there are 15 students, okay, they may be doing 4 different experiments. Okay, that means different types of work. Suppose if you are sitting in a classroom, all 60 are listening to the same lecture, whereas in the lab, so even though in a batch, again there are 4 different groups. 4 groups are doing 2 experiments or 4 experiments. That means type of work doing by students are different. Okay, so that is based on this. Okay, if employees are doing similar jobs, the span of management can be larger, like in classroom. If their jobs are quite different, like in laboratory, a small span may be necessary, like the batches in lab. Next, well-defined authority and responsibility. If the authority and responsibility is well-defined, then this helps a superior to manage a large number of subordinates, because there will be no confusion. Okay, so there will be clarity regarding what powers a manager is having and what responsibility is having. Okay, if it is clearly defined, then a manager can manage large number of subordinates. Next, geographic location. This is another important factor. Okay, if there are 20 subordinates working in shop floor of a company, it is easy to manage. But if there are 20 sales executives working in 20 different locations, it is difficult to manage. That's why geographic location also plays an important role. Okay, an office manager who has 25 employees, all located in one room, may be able to supervise them very well. But a sales manager who has 25 salespeople located in 25 different districts would find direct supervision impossible. Okay, so it is about where the subordinates are located, whether they are in the same place or they are situated at different locations. If they are in different locations, it is difficult to manage. If they are in the same location, it is easy to manage. Okay, now again you can consider the example of managing students in online class and offline class. Okay, if all students are sitting in a classroom, it is easy for a faculty to manage students. If students are sitting in their home and they are attending online classes, it is difficult for faculty to manage. Okay, you may unmute or you may do other misuse. Okay, same thing with general management also. Okay, geographic location plays an important role. Next, sophisticated information and control system. If real-time information is available, then it is easy for a manager to manage his subordinates. Okay, this helps the superior to control a large number of subordinates. Next, level of management. Span of management also varies with each level in the organization. Okay, if you look at the general structure of management, it is pyramid. It is having a pyramid structure. That means that will decide the span of management. Okay, at the top they have to manage less number. As it comes downwards, okay, first line managers, they have to manage more number of people. Next, economic considerations. An economic balance has to be arrived between cost savings that result from the largest possible span and the added cost because of small span. Again, you have to bridge a balance. Okay, so this completes today's class. Okay, I will continue in next class. Okay, if you have anything to ask, you can. ಏನಾದರೂ ಕೇಳೋದಿದ್ರೆ ಕೇಳಬಹುದು.